Has somebody ever discouraged you from following a dream, whatever that is? Starting a business, writing a book, taking a class, learning to dance, learning anything, creating art. This is a common phenomenon. And unfortunately, it holds back a lot of people. And I often like to think about what kind of world we would live in if people who created art or music or new inventions or started businesses weren't held back by other people's negativity and opinions, right? We would be, I don't know, living in a beautiful future world full of art and music and beautiful things. I'm John Moore. I am a shamanic teacher. I teach shamanism up in Maine. This video is a little bit of a departure for me. I normally do videos about spiritual topics, but and I'll tell you why this is a little bit different today. But this is going to be a little bit more practical and along the personal development line. So today I was on looking through some information in a writers group that I belong to. And somebody posed a question, do you ever get discouraged in your writing by other people? And there were just tons of responses there. And that really kind of made me sad. Why do people feel the need to discourage? I'm going to get into that. But I also thought, no, I actually don't get discouraged in my writing by other people. And so I thought about why that is as well. It's not that I've never been discouraged in my life. It's that I'm not currently being discouraged. And so I'm going to give you, I don't know how many I have here, 6. I'm going to give you 6 actual practical tips to stop being discouraged by other people. Now, if you're discouraging yourself, that's on you. Fix that. Change that. But if there are other people who are actively discouraging them, I'm going to give you some tactics for that right now. And I'll tell you where I come from, and I'll tell you a little bit about my history. So I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, shall we say, and not always being fully supported in what I was doing. When I was born with birth defects, and the doctors told my parents that I would never walk again. Now, one of the good things was that I couldn't talk when doctors said that. I couldn't understand words. I was a baby. And so that didn't sink in. And I didn't pay attention to the experts and say, oh, I'll never walk again. I might as well not try. Not only do I walk, but I played sports. I fully functioning, went on to get a black belt in martial arts, actually 3rd degree black belt in martial arts, taught martial arts for a couple of decades, did all kinds of stuff. But that tells you how, not being affected by other people's words, you can really excel. I'm not particularly special or smart. I was not born talented. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. None of those things. I am not better than you or more special or anything. But I have learned a few things that I'd like to share. When I was older, I loved doing art. I did drama. I did music. I did all kinds of things. I love performing arts. And when and where I grew up as a child, one of the worst things for a young male was to be seen as emasculine, to be seen as woman-like or gay or anything, effeminate, any of those things was seen as really horrible. In fact, you could face violence from your own family, from your peers, from random strangers. There was a very formative event that I from Maine, and Stephen King actually based some of the It story about this incident where a young gay man was killed by people one night, and that really struck me as well, even as a straight male, how horrible just to be violent towards somebody because you feel like they're less than you, because they're different or something. But anyway, there would be certain times where, and my dad had been an artist, at least somewhat, and my aunt was a professional artist, very amazing artist. And I would be painting or doing something, and my dad would come in and just tear it apart. And I would get angry. And I'll show him, kind of thing. And then I remember coming to him one day and saying, Dad, I'm really going to audition for this thing. And he kind of looked at me and he said, isn't that a little gay? Gay being used as an insult here, meaning effeminate, less than masculine, whatever. And I recognized that masculine, emasculine has nothing to do with sexuality. I'm just saying this was how it was used all when I was growing up as an insult towards males. Calling somebody gay was whether they were or not, was an insult. It was intended that way. It was a slur. And that would make me angry. Like, how dare you put me down for doing something I want to do? And then I would go do it anyway. And I'm so glad I didn't get discouraged, because I had amazing experiences during some formative years of my life. I wound up touring Europe one summer with a music group, and when I was 17, what an amazing experience that was. I've been on TV, I've been on the radio, I do lots of things in public where if I had listened to people, that might not have happened. So it's not that I've never been discouraged, and it's not that I've always been able to overcome this, but I have recognized some strategies, or come up with some strategies, or gotten strategies from other people that have worked for me. And I write, and I paint, and I do these videos, and I teach shamanism, and some people are like, you can't teach shamanism. No, sorry. I also have people who are clients who come to me for different reasons. And I had a person who's an artist come to me, and amazing artist, like really wonderful things, and was scared to show his art because he had gotten haters online. Haters are this wonderful thing that comes from social media. And, it even gotten to the point where he'd gotten some threats of violence against him. So he was scared to show his art. And I was able to sort of say, look, what you have to share with the world, and this goes for you too, and I don't care who you are and what you do or what you want to do, what you have to share with the world is more important than all of the haters in the entire planet trying to keep people from doing what they love. Even if what you want to do isn't in the public eye, even if it's something, I don't, I love to paint and create art, but I do it for myself. I don't show or sell my art. Who knows, maybe someday, but it's not something I'm into right now. I do it for myself. I do it because it helps me cope with the world, and it helps me get my, what's inside me out and express, and art's very therapeutic. So I said to him, what you have to share with the world is infinitely more important than anything shared by any of the haters who are trying to quash that horrible thing. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So let me give you some strategies. I'll get right into it, shall I? Strategy number 1 is be careful who you share with. There are people out there whose first instinct is to discourage you. And so if that is a thing that affects you, and we are all affected, we like to think that we're above the opinions of other people, but we're not. Some of us more than others, but we do care what other people think about us. And so there's this instinct that we have where we're actually going out and looking for encouragement. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be encouragement. And think about like me wanting to share with something I was proud and excited about with my dad, and him saying, isn't that a little gay? Trying to stop me from doing it by making me seem emasculine for wanting to pursue that. And living up to whatever his idea of masculinity was about, um, was nowhere near as important as me living my life the way that I wanted to live it. So, be careful who you share with. You'll know the people in your life who are going to put you down. You can go do stuff, and this is where tip number 2 comes in. If you're surrounded by people who are just kind of ready to jump on what you want to do, or if you're really affected by other people's opinions, and if you can't really be that careful with something that you're going to go public with. Let's say you're going to do an art show, or you're going to learn a dance, or you're going to do this or that or this or that. Let's say you have an effort that's going forward, like I do a podcast, and let's say I put my podcast together. Well, I didn't go public with that until I actually launched my very first podcast. So it was already done. It was already out there. And the reason that was important for me was I wanted it to be what it was, and I didn't want people pitching their 2 cents in. And so I wanted to say, oh, here it is. You're welcome to give me your feedback, but I've already created this thing. I've created the format for it, how I want to do it. It's out there in the world. It's too late to discourage me before I get it out the door. So nip that in the bud. Don't be discouraged before you're able to do it as you want to do. Tip number 3, and I've already alluded to this a little bit, you can use discouragement as fuel. And I find that indignance can be a useful emotion. All emotions can be useful in the right context. Anger can be useful in the right context. Love's not just an emotion, but the feeling of love, the feeling of excitement, the feeling of in the right context is useful. And it's important to discriminate that. Some people are indignant for no reason. I asked for 3 sugars in my coffee and you gave me 2. How dare you? I am personally offended. But we can use, if we get discouragement, we can use that as fuel. And I talked about that with experiences with my dad, where he would, say something was wrong or emasculine or whatever. And I would say in my head, because it was dangerous to argue with my dad. In my head, I would say, how dare you? Screw that. I'm going to do it anyway. And so indignance is the how dare you, or who are you to, or screw you, I am going to do this in spite of you. And it's not to say that harboring hateful or angry feelings towards people for long periods of time is a good thing, but you can use this discouragement as fuel. Tip number 4 is just to understand where discouragement comes from. People who are waiting to jump on you to put you down, the haters, the internet haters, all of this stuff, the people in your life that want to discourage you. There's a couple of places that this comes from, and very frequently people are not even aware of this. So I was in a relationship with another practitioner of shamanism, and got contacted by a publisher to pitch a book, and out of the blue. And this practitioner had more experience, had been doing this longer than I had. And when I said, hey, I got, I'm really excited, I got contacted by this publisher to pitch a book. And her very first response was, well, you sure they don't want somebody with more experience to write that book? What a nasty response. Instead, in a relationship, and I'll do a whole video about relationships, you really should be lifting each other up and not crushing people down. But this was a reaction and not a response. It was a horrible reaction. But this was really about jealousy. Why didn't they contact me? I've got more experience than you, and I studied writing in college, and I write poetry, and I do this and I do that. That's really what it was about. It was about jealousy. The other thing that happens here, and these processes, I got to tell you, are unconscious for most people. She was not conscious that she was feeling jealous. It was like her jealousy was just coming out that way. The other thing to understand here is projection. So when I have insecurities and I see somebody like stepping out, and I say, oh, you better not do that because people are going to make fun of you, or people are going to hate you, or people are going to do this, or people are going to do that. That's me projecting my own insecurity onto you. Oof, I couldn't, it's like when you're, you ever watch a movie and somebody's standing on a ledge or something, and they look over the ledge and all of a sudden you get dizzy, right? It's because you're projecting how you would feel onto that movie character. Well, that goes on in real life all the time. We're not aware of it because it comes out of our shadow. Shadow is the stuff that we don't know about, our unconscious stuff. So people like to project their insecurities. Isn't that a little gay? Meaning, if you seem like it was dangerous for me to seem emasculine, you shouldn't seem emasculine. That's scary. That'd be terrible. Or, how my son, if people think my son's not masculine, that reflects on me, and then I won't look masculine. That's all that is. So it's jealousy and projection, and that's where most of this discouragement is. Sometimes it's couched in, I am looking out for you. I'm looking out for your best interest. Don't do this. People will make fun of you. I remember years ago, I had a friend, and she wanted to take up dancing. She wanted to just go do a dance class, right? She wasn't going to become, she wasn't going to dance ballet she was an adult. She was going to just go take a dance class and enjoy it. I don't know, salsa or something like that. And her husband at the time, they were no longer married, and you might understand why when I say what he said to her. He said, you're so klutzy. If you do that, you're just going to trip over yourself and fall down. Wow. Yeah, that sort of discouragement, it's just projection. And part of it is, it might sound like he's looking out for her. Oh, if you do that, you might fall down. You might, don't do that. You're klutzy. You could hurt yourself. He's not looking out for her. That is 100% not what that is about. And I'm sure you can think of situations in your life where people were looking out for you, but really weren't. So anyway, that's projection and jealousy. The next thing you can do, so when you can set a boundary, and this can be hard if you're not used to this. And I'll do a whole video on boundaries at some point. You can set a personal boundary, and you have to decide if you have the courage to do this. But you can say to people, "Hey, you know what? I'm really excited about this. If you're not, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear about it." Or, "It's not okay to discourage me. This is something I really care about." What you're doing is saying, it's not okay to treat me in a certain way. A favorite therapist of mine once said, we teach people how to treat us. And that's true. It's true from what we expect, what we accept from people, what we expect from people, and the boundaries that we set. And frequently, if you're not used to it, it can be uncomfortable setting boundaries because it feels like, oh, we're imposing on somebody or whatever. But our boundaries are about us. It's about self-preservation. It's about protecting yourself. And you don't have to be rude or in your face with it. People who disrespect your boundaries, people who will cross over a set boundary, if you say, you know what, it's not okay to talk to me like that, I don't appreciate it, and somebody says, well, you blah, 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 well, they are being disrespectful. They're being personally disrespectful to you. And you don't have to accept that. You can walk away or do whatever you need to do. But you can set a boundary when somebody is trying to discourage you. Say, it's not okay for you to discourage me. And sort of the last tip I have is sort of a practical one is, and you have to be a little bit careful about this one too, because there can be discouragers here, but you can look for supportive groups, collectives, online or in person. So think about, I actually have plans after the pandemic, I hope soon, to just host groups that just want to do art together. Just come together and encourage each other and have a bunch of supplies and do whatever people want to do. So find your group, find your tribe, look for support, and I will talk to you real soon.